Okay, so I'm here with Marissa Kastanek, and I want to start by asking you what's the English pronunciation of your surname? Because for us, people in Poland, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, for us, in English, like we just say Kastanek.
Okay, so it's pretty similar. And the thing is,
Yeah.
you have Czech roots, right? Your grandparents were actually from Czechia. Were you able to go to Czechia?
Yeah, I actually got to play one season there. So I played a full season. It was the season 2014, 2015. I played in Czech Republic. My great grandfather was born in America, but his siblings were born in the Czech Republic. Oh, at the time it was Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
Um, and so all of like a lot of the Czech immigrants went to where I'm from in the States. And so like my grandparents were basically raised Czech. They spoke Czech. They went to a Czech school, all of that stuff, like in the little area of my state. And then they raised my dad as an American because they realized at the time it was kind of bad to have an accent. It was bad to be foreign, if you will. And so he doesn't really speak much Czech. They basically spoke the Czech so he wouldn't understand, in those situations. But yeah, I grew up eating Czech food at holidays and all that stuff. Like it was really
Okay.
cool.
So Nebraska actually has a big Czech diaspora?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have this, it's kind of like Chicago and Polish people.
Yeah.
Where I'm from in that area, we have a lot of Czech people.
Okay. So we will return that. We will return to that. But first, I want to ask because we're talking primarily because of your activism, right? That's what I'm primarily interested in. So going through your history, it's evident that you were always active, regardless of the community you've been in. So where does that need and motivation to be involved in like your surroundings, your community come from?
I would say I was raised very well by my parents. Um, they always told me and asked me the question like, who would you be if you lost your arms? Who would you be if you lost your legs? Like if you can't play basketball, if you can't play your instrument, or if something happens to where your abilities get diminished, what kind of a person will you be? And that's always how they raised me. And so um along with that, I was also raised knowing God and believing in Jesus. And so we were always having this like undertone of service because that's what Jesus basically is, and what he came to do. He came to serve his people. And so that's always been something near and dear to my heart. And I just love to help where I can. And so anytime that I see a need, I try to meet it. And then I would say also, I think it helps me to be more comfortable in the places that I live because I've lived far away from my home and my family for many years. And I feel like it helps me to, if you will, like acclimate to the culture a little bit faster if I'm involved in the community.
Okay. And the idea to establish your own fellowship, which you did in 2019, where did it come from? Was it the extension of the way you were raised, or was there like a certain impulse that just, sparked the whole process or ignited the whole process? Maybe
So
would be a better phrase. Yeah, sorry.
They they both are good words to use. Ignited and sparked. I came overseas in 2013, and I realized that's kind of where community ended. It was like I felt so alone. I felt like um it was the first time I experienced culture because I had never left the United States, and I didn't realize that I had a culture until I left my culture and experienced a new one. And everything like just kind of hit me. Basketball was probably the easiest part of the transition, but it was like the food, the people, language, grocery stores, like everything you think that is normal totally changes. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize that I had so much culture until I left what I was used to. And I was kind of thinking, like, I can't be the only one that feels this way. There has to be other Americans around Europe that feel this way. But I wasn't as strong in my faith at that moment. And a friend and I from Texas, who was playing in Spain at the time, we kind of just started to go through the Bible together. We started to do some sport geared Bible studies that helped us learn more about our faith, learn more about our faith in sports and what that looked like. And then it it went on for quite a few years, and I was like asking her, do you think it would be a good idea if maybe we invited more people? Like, there has to be more people who feel alone, and right now I feel kind of comfy in my faith. I feel like I can share it. I feel like I'm equipped now. And so in the summer of 2019 is basically I gave what we were doing a name, and that was wisdom, because wisdom is also, as a word, defined as applied knowledge. And so I feel like that's one of the greatest gifts you could have, is being able to apply the things that you learn in life. And so wisdom was named wisdom in itself, but also the acronym worshiping in sports and discussing our mission. And so yeah, that's when it started, and it's been on fire ever since, and it just keeps growing.
Cool. And so let's break it down. Worshipping into two parts, maybe. Worshipping in sports. So how do we worship God through sports? Like from your perspective, how does that look
Yeah,
like?
yeah. So basically, to worship, a lot of people think that's just to sing. But worship is how you live, how you thank God, how you use your gifts that you've been blessed with in a way that will shine light onto God. And so when I say worshiping in sports, a lot of us were given gifts of athleticism. We were given these gifts. I did have to do, hard work to make them better, improve them. But I was given a gift by God, and it was to be athletic, and it was to be a hard worker. And when God makes something, he wants it to do what he made it for. So like a bird is worshiping God when it's singing and flying. A tree is worshiping God when it's growing and has leaves. And, a dog is worshiping God when he's running and playing and doing all of his fun stuff. So we're worshiping God by playing our sport to the best that we can. And there's a phrase I learned that's audience of one, and it basically takes away all the pressure of the world. It takes away everything that every athlete feels so burdened by, and it's like we're only playing our sport for God, and he doesn't really care about the outcome. He cares how we do what we do, and he loves to just watch us do what we do. But in turn, when you play that way, when you play free, it's one of the most beautiful things that you can do. And so it's just a different way of approaching the game that makes a person free. They can still have fun, and like all the pressures of the world kind of disappear.
Okay. So how do fouls count into that, if I may ask?
Yeah, yeah. Did you watch the recent game? Is that why you're asking?
No, no,
Or
no, no,
did
no,
you?
no, no, nothing like nothing malicious. I'm just asking,
This is actually like a huge thing that a lot of people think that you have to be perfect to follow and talk about Jesus. And I will be the first person to say I'm not. And it's funny that you asked, because I'm very convicted about this. And the refs are people also. And the refs are human beings with souls. And I actually, in my prayer time this morning, was so convicted by God. I actually am doing something new. I've already written on my shoes, be kind, because the refs are there doing their job. And I've never played a perfect game, so I can't expect them to be perfect either. Um, And when fouls are called that maybe I disagree with this season, I've actually been done a very poor job of being kind to the refs, and I've done a very poor job of being a light in a situation that I should be a better example in my position. And so I think that that's a very good question, and it's something that is a great way to worship God in sports by not acting how people expect you to act. And that's what Jesus did. He always acted counterculturally. Like when he saw, you know, a tax collector who at that time was horrible. They were stealing money from people. They were doing this, but yet he went to dinner at their house, you know? That was countercultural. Like he did things that weren't, let's say, normal. And that's how I want to be. That's what worshiping in sports means. So when I act how the world thinks I should act and justify it with, oh, games bring emotions and it's okay to yell at the refs and blah, 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 blah. It's actually not. Like, that's not something that is okay with me. And it is something that I am working on. And so I love that you brought that up, because it is something that is also very important, is not only how you play your sport, but how you treat the opponent, how you treat the referees, how you treat the fans that are saying unnice things to you, and being able to have that self-control of like, okay, you're playing for one person, God. You're not playing for the approval of this, that, and the third. And so it's a huge part of it. Doesn't make it easy, but that's the beauty of Christianity, is that it is a journey. And
Mm-hmm.
God's going to get you where you are, but he's never going to leave you there. So he's working on something in me right now. And I'm just glad he keeps giving me second chances.
Yeah, and there's a reason why you have five of them to use, right? Like you have five fouls during a game, because we're all human, so that's like it's fine to make mistakes. And I'm not, bashing anybody who's fouling other people. I just believe that the fouls are there for a reason, and if you
Yeah.
just commit a foul, it's still a part of the game. So whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so let's discuss the mission, because you're doing awesome stuff for your fellowship, like raising funds for orphans in Zimbabwe. And I'm guessing that Stephanie Mavunga was involved here, kind of, right? Or not really?
She was a little bit, but the leader of that project I actually knew before
Okay.
Stephanie. And they actually ended up getting to know each other a little bit through me. But Tatenda was the young gentleman who set me up with that, and he was actually kind of in a orphan situation, if you will, when he was growing up in Zimbabwe, and so it was very near and dear to his heart. So we helped him with that.
Okay. And you also give gifts to Polish orphans every Christmas, 4 years in a row. This was your fourth, right? Your or fifth.
It's fourth or fifth. We kind of got confused, but I think this year was the fourth year that we did this particular action. Yeah.
Okay, and you're donating to people in need in Philly, right? You help in Nebraska. So if you were to summarize the mission, because it's like all over the world, we're talking about Africa, North America, right? Poland. So if you were to summarize the mission, what's the mission?
So we have three main goals at Wisdom. The first one is for anyone who wants to join. Um, we're open. Our doors are open for anyone, whether you're at the very first day of your walk with Jesus, you've been walking your whole life, or if you're just curious about what it is like to follow Jesus, we're here for that. And the first goal is that we want to help people grow a personal relationship with God. And if you see our logo, that's the roots going down. And then the second goal is to do life together. No one was meant to do life alone. It was never meant to, be isolated and be independent. Everything is supposed to be codependent. We're supposed to help each other with everything. And so, being a professional basketball player, to a lot of people outside of our world, is one of the best jobs ever. And there should be nothing ever that goes wrong, because you get to play a sport for your job and you get paid for it. But there's a lot of things that go on in our world that we have questions about, that we're not super happy about, or that we just need someone to talk to that gets it. And so we're here to do life with each other, to walk through the valleys with one another, to celebrate on the mountaintop. So that's where the trunk comes in, and where wisdom is there. Like we're doing life together because we're a lot stronger when we are together. And then the third goal that wisdom has is to bless others with what we've been blessed with. I think it's very good stewardship. It's very good way to live, that when God, because everything we have comes from God. There's nothing that we can say like, I did that, because there's so many factors that play into us having what we have. And so that third pillar is very important to us. As you mentioned, we do a service project every month, and that could be helping. I mean, we're just the hands and feet of God. And so basically, I find a project, I find a need that we can meet practically, I present it to the wisdom members, and then we gather the money, and 100% of that money goes to what we said it's going to go to. Wisdom makes no money. This isn't a nonprofit. We're literally not like, I do not make money from this. This is
You're
nothing
operating at
that
a loss. Yeah,
um
yeah, I get it. No, I'm joking. Yeah,
but
but that's true. Yeah.
yeah, no, but and so I realized, because why people don't give, or why people aren't as generous as maybe they want to be, is one, they don't know where, two, they don't know how, and three, they don't trust the place where they're donating. Because nonprofit doesn't mean they don't make money. Nonprofit means they cover their costs and then they give the rest. And so wisdom basically just became a bridge to donate to places and help people. So that's our mission, and that's what wisdom was created for.
Okay. And how do you find those like mm, cases that you want to donate to? Do they come to you, like people reach out to you, or for example, you find something or something comes to you in a dream, maybe? Or because I have this thing with books, when I find a book, for example, and the book speaks to me in a way when I see it on a shelf in a bookstore, right? So, do you have something like that when it comes to such cases?
Um, yes and no. I will say we have never not had a need be presented. Every month I'm praying about and for God to open my eyes and open my ears to things that need our help, that need our attention. And it can be a suggestion from a wisdom member. It can be like, hey, I saw this online, or I've been thinking about doing something like this. Let's try to think about something in that regards. Since we've been around in 2009, since 2019, we kind of have some projects that quote unquote depend on wisdom now. Every August, we do a back to school bash for the local homeless shelter in my state. The Philly project that you saw with the Thanksgiving things, Alexis Peterson runs that, but wisdom has become a major supporter of that. Similar to this Christmas project, we've had the same house near Wrocław now for the past 3 years. We did one house in Krakow the first year, like close to Krakow, not in Krakow, but close to Krakow. And we just kind of find those events and we stick to them. But then they'll be random. There was one random one where we said, you know what, we feel like people are going to need their electricity bills paid. And so me and a wisdom member, Yvonne Turner, she plays in Valencia right now, we sat around and we called random. It was totally random. These electric companies that we called, and we're like, hey, do you have any outstanding bills? We have this much money to put towards that account. Some of them helped us. Some of them were like, no, you can't do that. So we called a different place. So it can be random. It can be organized by a wisdom member. God will put things on my heart. We just have a lot of different areas that they come through, but we've never had a lack of need, if you will.
Totally understand that. You've also donated 14 inches of your hair for cancer patients to help make wigs, right? So
Yeah.
I was wondering, just watching the Polish league through the years, where your hair went, and now I know what happened. So how hard was that decision for you? Because long hair was like one of your staples, I guess, right? So was it a hard
Yeah.
decision?
So, no, it's actually a super easy one for me. I'm kind of what you would call like not the girliest of girls. So my hair, I don't really do much with it. I don't ever really straighten it or blow dry it or anything. And I'm blessed with long, straight hair. Like it grows so fast. I've actually donated my hair 3 times now. Um, I did it once when I was like in college-ish. And then after we won the championship in Wrocław, I had this long braid and I was like so ready for it to be gone. I came back to the States and donated that hair. And then it took me a while again, and then um, donated it 2 years, 2023. It was April 1st, I think, of 2023 that I donated to the Polish one. But it wasn't a hard decision at all. Like it was something like it's a similar thing. God has blessed me with something. So who am I to keep it for myself? Like it'll grow back. So I
Awesome.
want to
Yeah.
give it to someone to use it.
Okay. So speaking about community, maybe let's move to basketball just for a moment, since
Yeah,
yeah.
that,
Uh,
that
um,
it's more than
okay, okay. So up until college, you've spent your whole life in Nebraska, either in Lincoln or 30 miles from Lincoln in Crete. You pronounce it Crete, right?
yeah,
The high
yep, just
school?
like
Okay.
Greece.
Okay. So and you decide to move to NC State. So why NC State? Because you have a pretty good college team in Nebraska. So why NC State?
Yeah. Well, the coaches at Nebraska said I was too small. So they didn't necessarily want me. They said I could come there, but I wouldn't play that much. And so it was kind of like, well, why do I want to come then? But that coach later apologized to me. She's not there anymore. She was like, man, we missed out. But it's okay. It's funny now. Everything happened the way it was supposed to. But when I was going into college, the conferences were still the original conferences. So the ACC was still the ACC, the Big
Hmm.
10, the Big 12. Like everything was how it used to be. Now it's like crazy and it doesn't really make sense
Yeah.
how they split everything up. But when I was getting recruited, the Atlantic Coast Conference, in my opinion, was the best basketball conference in the country. And I was getting recruited by many schools closer to home, many of this, but when I went to North Carolina for a tournament, I mean, there's 4 schools in the ACC in North Carolina. There's Duke, NC State, North Carolina, and Wake Forest. And when I stepped foot in North Carolina, the state, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I love the weather, I love what it looks like. And then NC State had offered me a scholarship to come there, and I was like, it hit everything in my box. I love the state. The program was awesome. I felt at home there, and it was in the ACC. So it it had number one in my heart because of that ACC thing. No other school could really compare. And so once they offered, I was hooked, and then the rest was history.
Yeah. And I want to ask also about the staple of your game, so the three pointer, or at least the thing that you are most associated with. So when
Yeah.
did it come to you that actually the three pointer is going to be your primary weapon on the offensive court, on the offensive like side of the court?
When did it come to me? I mean, I think
Was there a
when I
moment,
was
or was
young,
it? Yeah.
I think I think it was, I might have to ask my mom because she tends to remember things a little differently than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was, I remember like fifth or sixth grade, I was a pretty good shooter from 3 points. And I think it just became something I was good at. And I just continued to work on it and continued to get better at it. And I don't know. I think it might have just happened. I don't think there was a moment where it was like, okay, I'm a shooter. I think I more so saw myself growing up as a scorer. Like that was just what I did is I scored. Um, I had a really good point guard that I played with starting in like third grade. Her name's KK Hauser. She actually played with me all the way through, and then she went to Purdue University. She played in Poland. She played in Poznan for a little bit,
Oh,
and then in Bydgoszcz. But she's my best friend, and we grew up together. So she was a really good point guard. So we were like a dynamic duo, and it just made sense. And so I don't know. I I can't say there was a moment where it was like, okay, I'm a 3 point shooter. It just kind of became that, I guess.
okay. Okay. And I found an old interview with you from 2011 when you're talking about the Pan Am Games for Team USA. So, do you remember anything from that experience representing your country?
Yeah, I do. It was my first experience with FIBA rules and everything. It was totally strange to me. That was my first time leaving the United States as I went to Mexico to play in those games. Um, and it was just like a really cool experience to be representing a whole country in a
Okay.
basketball game.
Okay.
Up until
And
then, I've been a city or a university, not ever like a whole country.
mhm, okay. And did it hit different when you put on the Polish national team jersey for the first time because of the fact that you represented the US in the past? Was it like, did you feel that you were transitioning into something? Like, was the experience different because of your prior experiences with representing the country?
I I would say no, um, solely for the fact that like my representation of the US, it was very short and it was I don't want to say it wasn't meaningful because it was very meaningful, but it was a bit strange as like they threw us together in like a week and a half and then we went to like we had never played each other, we just met each other, went and played, and then it was over. So I didn't feel, if you will, like as attached to that thing. And maybe it was because it was just so new to me and everything, like I was just probably like lost, like, oh my gosh, like we're going to this place and this place. And maybe if I would have had more chances to play with Team USA and more opportunities to know what it meant to represent a country, I think it would have hit different than if I was to play for Poland. And I think that's why FIBA makes the rule that you can't play for two.
Hmm.
Um, but for some reason, those Pan America games weren't like FIBA qualified. I don't know why, because usually you can't play for two. And I think they said it wasn't like official FIBA. There was something that made it so I could play for Poland. But yeah, putting that jersey on and playing for Poland for the first time was insane. It was one of the coolest moments. Like I had taken it very seriously. Getting my passport was a huge honor for me, and I started to learn the language. I got a teacher. I At that point, my first game, I knew the chorus of the national anthem. Like, so I took it very seriously because it was a huge honor to me, that first national team experience. And then obviously every national team experience after that was amazing.
Okay. And why did you decide, if I may use that phrase, I obviously mean it in a, let's say, a more nuanced way. But why did you decide on Poland if you could represent Czechia as well? Because like it would be easy to represent Czechia, but you chose Poland.
It actually wasn't easy to represent
Okay,
Czechia because my, as I said before, my great grandfather was born in America while his siblings were
okay,
born in Republic or Czechoslovakia at that time. I would have to go another generation higher than my great grandfather. And then that was in their government's eyes too far away.
okay,
Um, and let's say they didn't really want me, if that
okay. Yeah.
if we want to be honest, and Poland really wanted me to represent the country as a Polish player. And so very similar to NC State and going to school at Nebraska, one of
Mm-hmm.
them said, well, you can try to get scholarship one way. You can come here if you want, but we can't promise anything. And Poland really wanted me. And so we made that process work here in Poland.
Yeah, yeah, I totally understand it. Because in soccer, it's pretty easier to get like the naturalized players, I guess. Although in basketball, it's shouldn't be a problem. And okay, so and when did you feel like Poland could be your new home or your second home, maybe?
You know, I felt like Poland's my second home. Probably the people in Wrocław were amazing. I still say to this day, and I don't mean any offense to the fans in Gdynia, but my fans in Wrocław were amazing. It was like family orientated. They were always so supportive. They brought a feeling to that gym that was second to none. And I think when I was playing in Wrocław, I felt so comfy there. And the city is amazing. That place has my heart. And then I had so many cool connections there, so many cool friends outside of basketball. I do here in Gdynia as well. And I think that just having all those people in Wrocław, in Gdynia, it feels that way. And I think it's the people that make it feel that way.
Okay. And you've been in Poland for, if my math is correct, this is your ninth or 10th season. I think
So
ninth.
I arrived in January of 16. And so I
Okay.
played half and then three more in Wrocław. So three and a half.
Okay.
And then this sixth season in Gdynia. So
Okay.
9.5.
Okay. And is there even a chance for you playing in a different country?
At this point, I would say, I mean, there's always a chance,
Yeah.
but if I could be in full control, no.
Okay. Cool. Cool. That's good. That's nice.
But there's always a chance. I can't say no, but there's always a chance, if you will. But if I could choose and if I could have it my way, the answer would be no.
Yeah, and especially in European basketball, right? Where just year to year, just players change teams all the time. So it's really confusing. I mean, for fans to follow at least, because I mean, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the last question I have is, what's next for Wisdom Fellowship? If you can like return to that, what are other like initiatives or plans that you guys are working on?
You know, it's pretty crazy. I I can say that I trust God with everything, and with Wisdom's future, it's the exact same. I have ideas. I have maybe plans that I want to do. I have some things where I've been talking to God, like, okay, how do we transition? Where do we go from here? Something we've been doing recently is we have like a weekly Zoom call, which is kind of new to this year, and we've been keeping it up like every week. And so it's something that adds another level to our fellowship. So that's been something that's been really fun. I think I have been trying to get this in the works, but I want to do like kids camps. in some degree where we mix faith and basketball. And so we do those devotionals, those studies where we can teach kids about how to worship God in sports. None of it's come to fruition yet. We haven't had a camp yet, but I think it's on the way. There's a lot of planning that goes into that. But one thing I've noticed is if you just start, everything works out. God puts people where they need to be and gets things where they need to be going and all that stuff. So I think it's just a step of obedience of just starting the camp and seeing what happens.
Okay, and the camps are going to be, are you planning the camps back in Nebraska or here in Europe?
Honestly,
We
haven't
don't
gotten
know.
that far yet.
Okay.
We could probably run in Poland and in Nebraska. I haven't mapped it all out yet. I'm all gung ho for just doing things, but then I realized that, there's some legal things that you have to take into account, like insurance stuff. Like what if somebody gets hurt at the camp? And that's the stuff that I don't know much about. So I need to reach out to those people. But if it's just a faith-based basketball camp, I'm all good for it. But people bring up these things like, well, what if this and what if that? You have to have these injury waivers. And so I'm not used to that part, that side of things yet. So once I kind of get people in place to help me with those things, I think it'll be fairly easy to handle.
Okay. And the Zoom calls are available to everyone? Everyone can join, or is it just for members of the fellowship?
I mean, I like to know who's joining. I
Mm-hmm.
like to have contact with
Understandable.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, wisdom is open to anyone. You also don't have to be an athlete. You know what I mean? We have members who are not athletes or current basketball players, but they're a part of wisdom. So it's not exclusive. Um, so yeah, I mean, we have people joining in randomly every week, either whether they're teammates of people who are members or, you know, hey, my sister wants to join this week. Can she? Absolutely. Send her the link when you get it. So you kind of have to be, I guess, somehow involved because you won't be able to get the link if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have my or a wisdom member's contact information. So
Sure. Okay. So thank you, Marissa, for finding the time and sharing your light with the world. So thanks.
oh,
And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
thank you so much, Lukash.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.